There we go. Okay. All right. Gotta grab the window. Pop out the chat. Drag you over here. Turn off that top chat nonsense. Okay. We're all good. There we go. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Well, my window's windowed. I think so. There we go. Let's see here. It says it's live, but I don't see my... There I am. Okay, cool. Everybody's happy. Go for it painting. How you doing? Roganus. Good morning, early birds. How you doing? Square Peg Makes Game. Hello. Motor Breath Jazz. Hello. Fungazi, good to see you. Good morning from chilly Washington, D.C. Yeah, it's chilly here, too. It's like 49. Sending a ton of love from the East Coast. Well, thank you. Loosely Collected. Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. How you doing? Dragonfire. Morning from Quebec. BF Bulldog. Good morning from a crisp, cold Yukon, Oklahoma. How you doing? Good morning from North Bend, Washington. Driving over to a buddy's place in an hour to have our own VincyCon of sorts. Well, that sounds like fun. But we are all beginner hobbyists. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Vince the barista. Oh, sure. Yeah. With the green. Yeah. He's got a couple different ones. He's got a green one and a tan one, or maybe gray. I think it's tan. The aprons. I mean, he's smart. He wears an apron. Like, I've got shirts and pants with paint on them because I don't wear an apron, and I should. But yeah, especially when I'm airbrushing, I have a tendency to spill. I mean, more often than not, it's just like the cleaning stuff, like paint water and whatever. But still, I have a tendency to get it on my pants. Natasha, how you doing? Darknet, there you go. Eric Wilson, good morning from rainy Bremerton, Washington. Hope your day is going well. It's rainy here too, yeah. It's rained most of the night. Joining from wet and windy Sussex, tea and shortbread and every other Sunday. Here we go. That sounds not so bad, right? Afternoon from drizzly South London. So sorry to hear about your mama. I appreciate it. VJ Morph, how you doing? Daryl, good evening. Jesse, morning from a wet Milwaukee. Sucks that the bridge was... Oh, it was up your way. It sucks that the bridge is closed. Yeah, that bridge, I think it's on Main Street. That's going to be closed till like April. Yeah, it's like under reconstruction, kind of. Yeah, so it is a pain in the butt. Duffy, good morning from Bucks County. How you doing? Prayshock, how you doing? Southern Ohio, chilly and dreary, perfect hobby weather. I mean, it's pretty good, yeah. I would do some hobby when I get home after going to my in-laws, but I'm going to be probably editing. We've got the next episode of the Snarlcast, the podcast that Vince and I do. If you're interested in learning about indie games and indie game design, go check out tabletopminions.org/Snarlcast, or just, go type in Snarlcast into any of your, preferred podcast receptacles, and there you go. Hobby weather. Comp Native, how you doing? James, good morning from rainy Michigan. How you doing? Good morning from North Carolina. Richard, howdy. Phil Moraine, morning. How you doing? Good morning from Boston. Darknet, I appreciate it. Let's see here. Morning from Quebec City. Just finished my Necromunda Mutant. Fun. Feel good to finish minis. It does. I agree. Hesler the Polychromatic. Morning from a firmly autumnal Saskatchewan. Absolutely. That sounds fun. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? Morning from Orlando, Duck Sauce, Double Dip. Good afternoon. My first show back after some work commitments. Sorry to hear about your mama. I appreciate it. Best wishes from a wet Surrey, UK. Rod, how you doing? Morning from a nice and cool Southern California. Thanks to everything you've done for this hobby and community. Well, that's nice of you to say. I appreciate it. Morning from Columbus, Ohio. Hope you're doing well with everything going on with you and the family. My continued prayers. I've had some allergies. Like right now, this eye is bugging me. It's not dripping. I've put in some drops earlier this morning and everything like that, but it is still itchy. So yeah, I'm definitely having some allergy things. On Friday, basically, I just walked around the house with Kleenex up both nostrils the entire time because it was just, which is why I didn't stream on Friday because I was like, well, no one wants to see that. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just turn off the webcam. But then I'm like, but then I'm going to sound like I got stuff up my nose the entire time. I don't know if it was a lot of snarfling going on, but nobody likes to listen to that either, which I understand. When we were kids, we wore our dad's old shirts back to front to be aprons. We used to call it a smock, but yes, indeed. Working my Gundam fleet in preparation for a new game today. Nice. Nothing like painting on a Sunday with Uncle Adam in your headset. Nice. Greetings from Aarhus. Oh, hey, how you doing? I spent some time in Aarhus last year. Me and the rest of the factory team went to Skanderberg, to the HQ for the Army Painter. Actually, if you watch the Army Painter video they put up yesterday, I believe, Friday or yesterday, I don't remember when it was, but it's about the new brushes, the new bionic brushes, and it's talking about like how they're made and what they're for and this and that and everything. But it also talks exactly about the thing I've been talking about how we tested those brushes, we, the factory team, and they gave us all these brushes with random handles, and then we did all this testing, and then it came down to basically like two main brushes, and one was the synthetic that they turned into the bionic brushes, and the other one, I guess, is a pretty expensive natural hair brush, which I don't remember if I thought it was good or not. I mean, I know some of the other guys certainly did because they're more, like natural hair painters, but it's a real interesting video about why they're doing this. I like that they're getting into the more like they're not putting plastic inside the box. There's not like little plastic trays to hold the brushes and things like that for the brush sets. Instead, they're using cardboard because it's more recyclable and this and that. But the brushes as well, especially being synthetic and everything, you don't have to be yanking them out of tiny little ferrets or whatever, anymore, which is also a benefit. But anyway, yeah, so while I was there one night, we went to Aarhus, and did we eat in Aarhus? I don't remember. I know we drank in Aarhus and walked around, and it was a good time. Let's see here. Hey, from Middle Tennessee, misty and cool. New puppy does not like wind or rain. Should be an interesting winter. Yeah. I mean, eventually they'll probably figure it out. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I can understand that. London, UK, how you doing, the Mr. Big? Southern Ontario, how much traction is Snarlcast getting on other platforms? I occasionally listen to podcasts on Spotify. Generally, it seems like we get about as many views on YouTube as we get listens everywhere else. Sometimes over time, that number on the YouTube side, like after a couple of months, goes up a little bit more. But yeah, so like in most situations in the first month on regular, podcast listening stuff, it's probably, I don't know, like 1,200 downloads or something like that. Whereas the YouTube channel, is those are usually 1,200 to 2,000 to sometimes bigger. The older ones, some of the older ones, there was one where we talked about GW. So of course that one did well, whatever. But yeah, it's doing okay. Morning from Denver. Sorry for your loss. Sending all positive vibes, thoughts, and prayers. I appreciate it. Allison, how you doing? Molly, good morning. Neural Matthew, how you doing? Jez Hunt, thank you very much. Let's see here. Greetings from Germany. Pollen is a weapon of mass destruction. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I get that it's like important for like plants or whatever, or bees or something, but I could do with less of it very frequently. Although I don't know what, like, I don't know if this happens in the fall and it happens in the spring. And I think it's maybe more tree related. I've always been wary of trees. But yeah, we're from Glasgow. Today I'm actually putting some old world bits on eBay. Feels good to be reducing the pile of shame. Well, I mean, now's the time to do it, right? Like, old world's doing pretty well. Any interesting stories from Emily's time at No Kings yesterday? Nothing. I mean, but she said that they got mostly positive beeps. Very few, when people, because it was right by the road, obviously. Very few, uh, yelling or the finger. I don't know. It looked like there were probably maybe 1,000 people, so not like a huge number. Maybe it was less. I don't know, but there was a bunch of people in inflatable costumes. That's fun. Pill Snurp. Greetings from KC. Doing some Old West terrain right now. Nice. Liquefied Pork. Morning from Caledonia. Working on fencing terrain. Nice. Morning from Portland, Oregon. On this beautiful fall morning. There you go. Working on Relic Blade. Cool. Grendel, thank you very much. Good afternoon from Greece. How you doing? Afternoon from rainy Surrey, UK. Trying to not get frustrated with painting a Sage Ventress for Shatterpoint. Soon I'll play the good enough card. Yeah, does she have stripes on her head and stuff? I know she's got like a shaved head and she's very pale. But I don't know if she's got like stripes on her. Painting stripes on people is hard. That's, yeah. Like, I don't think I could paint, what's his name? Darth Maul. You know what I mean? Like, that's, no thank you. Let's see here. Morning from Indianapolis, finishing up Salamander Terminator test piece. Nice. Afternoon from Luxembourg. Hello from San Antonio, Texas. How you doing? Good morning from rainy Columbus, Ohio. When you are all heading this, when are you all heading this way for VincyCon? So VincyCon, I'm leaving on Thursday. So I have to get my video this week done earlier than usual. So I'm cognizant of that. Yeah, I have a meeting on Tuesday morning with a lawyer for some more mom stuff, but otherwise I've got a relatively open, at least I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's a relatively open calendar. But yeah, I'm flying out on early Thursday morning, and then I come back on Monday, I think. That's about right. Let's see here. Any possibility you might visit any FLGS in the area? Would love to get my copy of Death Wizard signed. Yes, I think so. Like Vince talked about, and I don't remember the name of the place, but maybe we can tweet about it, or not tweet, but like a blue sky about it, or what, I don't know, whatever. I will try to figure, yeah, because he did talk about like trying to go to a place, I'll talk to him tonight anyway, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, he was talking about going to one of the game shops, and I can't remember the name. I don't know if it's Rampart. Is that a thing? I could be making that one up. That could be static. Morning, fellow minions. Make sure you hit that like. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. When's the new Snarl drop? It is the 15th, question mark? Nope, 14th. 14th of November is the plan currently. Yes. 15th is a Saturday, so we usually drop on Fridays. So yeah, that'll be 14th of November is when Snarl 2025 will come out with the cool mech game Chrome Rangers. I tried printing, so I found like a 3D print that was probably supposed to be maybe about yay high, right? I don't know, 2.5 inches. And I thought, well, what if I just blow it up like bigger, just scale it up and then print it on my FDM printer? So I attempted that, and I told it, I did the math, and I'm like, 'cause I want it to be 7 inches tall, because the mechs in that you're supposed to use in Chrome Rangers they are 6 to 8 inches tall. So anywhere in there is probably fine. So like Imperial Knights are fine, Chaos Knights are fine. That Storm Surge, the really big, Tau guy. There's a bunch of models that are they're GW models you could use to be fine, but just tons of other stuff. My thought process was that can I just get a normal sized robot STL and then just print it big on the FDM printer? And so it does it in millimeters. So I looked at, I'm like, okay, well, it's 7 inches is 177 millimeters. So I go into the Bamboo Lab software and I punch that in, but it turns out I punched 177 into the wrong spot. There's 2 different windows. There's 6 windows because it's 3 across X, Y, and Z, and then 3 across X, Y, and Z. And the top ones are scale, and the bottom ones are, actual millimeters. So I typed 177 into the top 3, and so it just scaled up the model 177%, which only took it to about 5 inches, but I did not know that until I printed it and then tore it off of the thing. And I'm like, this isn't big enough. So anyway, so then I decided to start reprinting it. And I was printing it all in like one piece, like already put together and stuff like that. And then I tried printing it at 177 millimeters instead of 177%. And then that print failed kind of because there's a spot in the middle of it that didn't get properly supported somehow. And then it kind of just all spaghettied, like right in the kind of hip, groin, pelvis area on the robot. And so I need to reprint it now with all separate parts and then glue it together. But all that to be said, I did keep the 5-inch one because I was like, well, it's still a pretty cool robot, And so I primed him because it was lovely the last 2 days. It was absolutely gorgeous the last 2 days here. And now it's going to be like blech for a while. Yeah, so I did some priming with that and I airbrushed him yesterday. That was the hobby that I did. There's a part of me that thinks, I should take him to VincyCon, but here's the deal. I don't generally ever paint at VincyCon. Everybody else is there to paint. I don't. And it's mainly because I really only like to paint downstairs in the basement in my spot with all my stuff and everything like that. And Vince has got like all the paints in the world and he's like, you can use whatever you want. I'm like, I appreciate that, but I don't know. It's just weird. I'll build on the road. I'll do other stuff on the road, but I don't like to paint on the road. So I don't paint while everyone else is painting. Last year I did a bunch of 3D modeling, and I think I'm going to do more of that this year. And I'm potentially also going to be bringing some models as well to build. Potentially some cool new plastic models, just FYI, from a company that had a Kickstarter last year that was quite big and then did not plan on having plastics, but they made so much money that now they're making plastics. Game's about trenches. That's all I'm going to say. I think, anyway, let me see here. Snarl. Question for you. Do you still soak your airbrush between uses? Yep. It's in water right now. I used it yesterday, like I mentioned. I did mostly black primer, and then I did a color called, because I rattle canned the model, because it's an STL. I rattle canned it first, or not an STL, it's an FDM print. I rattle canned it first with, the hell did I use? Filler primer, not Krylon, Rust-Oleum filler primer. So I gave it some kind of light coats with that, built that up. Then doesn't, get rid of your detail too much and stuff like that. And then after, I let that set for a while, excuse me, I then sprayed this black primer stuff over it. But I didn't get everywhere. The filler primer is gray and the black primer is black. So you can see spots where I kind of missed. So the idea was to then, and it was mostly on undercuts of things on the model. So I airbrushed him all up underneath his grill, basically, and got all the underside stuff with black primer with my airbrush. And then let that set for a bit. And then I did basically like a dark red zenithal, a color called Encarmine Red, I believe. And it's an airbrush color from Army Painter. And I sprayed that down and did like a zenithal because I decided I want this robot to be red, which I think will be cool. So I'll use him for something else. I'll just like, again, for just fun games, because he's about 5 inches tall, which is a pretty decent sized robot, but not like massive. And yeah, he's a cool model. But I'm going to have to reprint for like the videos that we make and stuff like that. I'm going to reprint that same robot, but the right scale now. And then, like I said, probably do it in separate parts and then glue them all together. which is fine. My primary allergen is oak pollen. I found this out after I bought a house with 30 oak trees in the yard. Allergy shots made it livable, but I could not do yard work when the blooms dropped in the spring. I mean, that's terrible to not be able to do yard work. That's very. I don't like yard work, so I'd be like, sorry. My wife is she likes to garden, and so she basically takes care of most of the yard work at this point, which is fine by me. I do all the snow blowing and all that jazz, so. Ahoy hoy, how you doing, Daniel? Good day, Tabletop Minions. My sincere condolences. I appreciate it, John Ashley Smith. Motor Breath Jazz, hello again. Roundtable games? I don't remember. Like I said, I'll find out from Vince tonight. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Uncle Adam, for everything you do for our hobby. Just dropping by, about to head out to play Marvel Crisis Protocol. Nice. Probably missed it. I probably missed you. You might be gone already. Kevin, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Afternoon from a drizzly and gray Nottingham. It seems to be drizzly and gray in a lot of drizzly and gray in a lot of places. Grizzly and Dre, those are two different guys. That's a terrible rap combination. A proper argle bargle out there. Ah, yeah, there you go. Please let us Ohioans know when and where you and the gang will be, and when you would like to meet in person. I always miss you at the cons. Gotcha. I'll talk to Vince about it tonight. Gonna get any games in at VincyCon? Yeah, we're gonna play test next year's spring, game, the bigger one, not Snarl, which we haven't announced yet. I think we're gonna announce it at. I think we're gonna try announcing our spring games at Adepticon, and announcing our Snarl games at Nova. I think that's going to work as a nice kind of, you know what I mean? Now that we're announcing them ahead of time. We didn't used to do that. We used to basically just be like, a game's coming and we're not telling you anything about it. And then the day it would launch, we would launch it. Well, now we've decided to kind of change things up a little bit. So with this particular, with Chrome Rangers, we're letting people know about it and stuff. We've been talking about it in the podcast mostly. So 3D model self, robot. Yeah, I was thinking terrain. I don't know that I'm good enough at robots yet, but I definitely am thinking about mainly terrain. I have some little sketches and some clipped screenshots of things that I've seen recently that I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to put into a piece of terrain and stuff like that. So I don't know that I'll ever be I mean, robots are going to be easier than people, probably, just because they're more hard surface as opposed to, organic or whatever. But even then, like a robot's a big deal, right? That's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know. For me, I think right now terrain is probably the way to go. But also good to see you, Noob. Good morning from sunny Vermont. How do you prevent your paints from drying out? We moved recently and a bunch dried out in storage. Are they GW paints in those little pots with the little flappy tops, or are they the screw top like dropper bottles? I find dropper bottles just basically, unless you left the cap off for like years, or maybe not years, but maybe months, like a long time. If you keep the cap on a dropper bottle, I've never really found one to dry out particularly. I guess maybe if you're talking about a decade or something, maybe, but for the most part, dropper bottles don't dry out. GW paint pots, in my opinion, are designed to dry out. And so that's the way I fix it, is by not using the GW paints. Morning from Plymouth, Wisconsin. Poster puttying Pez dispensers into nail polish racks and maybe some Nemesis claw building. Oh, that sounds fun. 5 to 7 inches could fit in a small Gundam. I mean, generally we tell people, I think in the rules, they're like, it's like 6 to 8, which is why 5. Again, no one's going to go to jail if I was to use a 5-inch one or anything like that. It's just, these are suggested sizes, but I was like trying to make it 7 inches, and I made it, because here's the deal. That particular robot at 5 inches versus 7 inches is going to be noticeable. Because when it did start to print, and before it failed in the pelvis area there, like everything, I was like, oh yeah, those feet are a lot larger. Like everything is, yeah, it's a definite thing. So, but yeah, Gundams would work fine too for this type of thing if you want to. What's your go-to filler primer? Like I said, it's this gray spray that says filler primer on it from, I think it's Rust-Oleum. You know what I really want, though, is I really want a filler primer that I can shoot through an airbrush. Although just in general, anything that could act as a filler primer that you shoot through an airbrush, I would think would clog an airbrush. So maybe that's why we don't see that. I am smart. But yeah, it would be sometimes nice to just be able to be like, especially like in just certain areas. You know what I mean? My eye is a little leaky there. Will the VincyCon gang be playtesting the Snarl game for 2026? No, we haven't that far ahead. We haven't worked. Like I said, the Snarl game's done, and I'm in layout and stuff and finishing everything up with the artist that's going to be doing art. And well, actually, it's like I'm starting like proto, what do you call it? Layout, but the my wife is going to be doing the second layer of like proofreading, I guess is the term I'm using. So I'm going to try to get her to start that actually tonight. But our spring game for 2026 is in progress. I would not say it's done. It's definitely pretty majorly on its way. Let's just say that it's it hasn't gone to development yet. I mean, it's probably not going to for a while. Like we've still not really nailed down. I haven't started to really nail down art yet on the new game. My plan was to, as soon as we launch Snarl, then I'll start reaching out to some art folks and things like that for the next game. But anyway, that's kind of where things are at. We do have the 2027 game planned. Like we know what it's going to be basically, but there hasn't been any writing on it really particularly or anything like that. But that's the 2027 spring game. The Snarls have a tendency to sort of pop up at us because they're a little bit like, honestly, Chrome Rangers was originally going to be a spring game, like one of our, books, like the printed books and all that kind of stuff. And then it just kind of changed and morphed, and we're like, this would maybe work better as a smaller Snarl game is the idea. Hello from Perth. How you doing? I live in a townhouse. I don't have to do yard work. Nice. Same classes. We're at Roundtable up in Dublin. Gotcha. Morning from Muskegon. How you doing? I think Grizzly and Dre were supporting Snoop when I VJ'd for him earlier this month. Could have been, yeah. We have clear blue sky and autumn colors here in Sweden. So that's where there's no rain. Sweden. All right, well, that's good to know. Listening on the way to work. Love, lots of love, good vibes from Tennessee. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you like sticking to a routine during VincyCon. Sorry. I appreciate that. But you might want to consider breaking the mold and get out of your comfort zone. You should paint. You might surprise yourself. The problem is, partially, Scott's not going to be there. So I can say this. Besides me, everybody there is a Golden Demon winner. So I don't know if Scott's won one. I know John has, and I know Ben has, and I know Sam has, and I know Vince has. So yeah, they're all Golden Demon winners. And then there's me, who like does a zenithal and then a little bit of dry brush and paints out some details, and then boom, it's ready for the tabletop type thing. So there's that partially as well, but also again, like I can sit and do other stuff, but for me, painting is very specific. It's very, very much about I have headphones on, I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm not paying attention to anything else for the most part. When I do it on Twitch, I'll be very honest with you folks, I don't do it as well on Twitch as I do when I'm not on Twitch. I also don't do it as quickly on Twitch as when I don't do it on Twitch. So yeah, I just don't like it. So I build things and I 3D sculpt things and that'll be good. Edinburgh, Scotland, how you doing? Oathmark Dwarves, fun. I think modeling a robot is as hard as you want to make it. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to model. Well, getting the shape of a Dalek would be a little hard, I think, with the stuff that I know how to do. But, the trick is that I feel like I get my reps in by doing some like terrain stuff, and then I can hopefully eventually start doing some other stuff. But I don't know that I ever see myself being a 3D modeler like by trade. I don't know. It's unlikely. I there's some things that I might make that I can then put up for people to download and stuff like that or whatever. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to be stuff that would sell on My Mini Factory or whatever. You know what I mean? Good morning from Jacksonville, Florida. About to do some painting. Nice. Morning, Uncle Adam from Lexington, Kentucky. Not had a chance to join the live stream in ages. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear you're here, is what I'm saying, Roland. I appreciate it. You don't go to jail if you don't play mini games exactly the rules is written. It's true. It's very true. Malev, how you doing? Good to see you. Great to hear about the Kickstarter. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Squirrel and a bird feeder. It's being a jerk. It just came out of the corner of my eye. Let's see here. To do 3D printing is like a whole other hobby I haven't ventured into yet. Like with resin, I would say absolutely. With FDM, which is instead of pouring the liquid resin, it's the big plastic spool, or whatever, and it's like the filament, right? Those were also a giant pain in the butt, and then Bamboo Lab came along, and I gotta tell you, I've got a Bamboo Lab A1 printer, and it is not cheap. It's not like it's $70 or something like that, but it is not super expensive either. And man, does it it's basically print and play. Like, and I've told this story several times, from the time that I cut the tape on the package when they sent it to me to the time that I printed out this little boat, which is what they call it's called the SS Benchy. It's basically like a benchmark to make sure your printer's working. Everybody prints off the little boat. So from the time that I cut the tape to the time that I had a finished Benchy that I popped off the plate was less than an hour. It was astounding. Like, you take it out of the packaging, it's 2 big pieces, you screw some parts together, you plug a thing in, boop, you tell it to auto level and calibrate and do all that stuff, and then the Benchy's already in like the memory, and you just go, yeah, print that, and it's printed in 20 minutes. And it's crazy. So I like FDM printing currently, but I'm also not usually trying to FDM print, 28 millimeter scale models or whatever. It's more terrain for me, or, bigger things like robots maybe sometimes. But it's still never I don't know that filament will ever look as good as resin. It seems highly unlikely. Obviously who knows what the future holds. But my hope is that resin gets more robust, so it's not quite as brittle. And I know there's already been plenty of steps heading in that direction. Tenacious is this additive you can add, but I think there's even just more types of resin that are coming out that are less brittle. I'm just looking for a way to make it so that it's less messy. Maybe I'm just still, but luckily my friend Dave from Bottle and Spool. It's bottle as in like you drink out of a bottle, but don't drink resin out of a bottle. But resin comes in a bottle. And then Bottle and Spool, because the filament comes in a spool. So bottleandspool.com. He does printing and does great work. He brought me some stuff yesterday. A bunch of shoulder pad symbols for a 4th army that I'm planning on painting, because it's already built for Grimdark Future. And they're all going to be Primaris Space Marines, which they call Prime Brothers. And then I also I really hate the Grey Knights, like the sculpts currently. I built a Grey Knight sculpt for my Shadow War Armageddon, like little 3-person band, and I built a Justicar, and because they're not Primaris and they're like regular whatever, they're just so stumpy and tiny. I was just like, so I had Dave print me. I found I think Puppets War makes something that's sort of kind of like Grey Knights, but not exactly. So I had him print me like the bodies and the arms and the weapons and all that stuff, but I'm going to put GW Grey Knight heads and probably also GW Grey Knight shoulder pads on them. And then it'll be kind of a mixture of the two, but they just won't be as butt ugly, hopefully. So that's where I'm hoping to go. But he brought those over yesterday too, so that's cool. Let's see here. Primarily a car modeler. Oh, sure, yeah. Parts potential is massive. Oh, for printing? For sure, yeah. Andy Chalfant, thank you very much. Does anyone know of companies that can print the OPR new vampire faction? I'm tempted. Well, my friend Dave probably could. I mean, you would need to send him the files. You'd need to have the files. I don't think he just because yeah. But that's kind of what he's a 3D printer guy. Let's see here. Taking some time out from the script writing to listen to your voice. Sorry, I missed the irregulars last night. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. What a wild ride and response. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's awesome. VINCECON painting. I heard from this guy on YouTube that you shouldn't compare yourself to others. More so, you should compare your painting to your own work. You are a wonderful painter. Oh, Golden Demon. Or no. I appreciate that. I do. Nonetheless, I don't know. I just, like I said, for me, it's about, like, I have to have, like, nobody talking to me except for a podcast or an audiobook. Like, I have a hard time paying attention to other stuff when I'm painting. I can do it while I'm building and other things, but yeah, painting for some reason, again, which is why Twitch is always not necessarily my best painting. But yeah. What's VincyCon? My good friend Vince Venturella, YouTube's Vince Venturella. He invites some of his friends who are, well, let's say content creators. He invites several of us to come over to his place in Columbus, Ohio. And so we go there. This year, it'll be me. It'll be Sam Lenz. It'll be Ninjon. It'll be Ben Cantor. Ben Cantor he's a YouTuber. Well, he's not. He's a painter. And then he started doing YouTube earlier this year. Metal AF Minis or something like that. I think it's definitely Metal AF, though, is in this YouTube channel. But Ben Cantor's, again, like I said, all of them are Golden Demon winners at one point or the other. So we basically just hang out in Vince's basement and paint and build and talk and whatever and hang out and all that kind of stuff. And then, I don't know, sometimes we go to dinner or sometimes we have stuff delivered or whatever, but it's a good time. It's usually, like I said, I'll get there sometime Thursday afternoon and then I'll leave Monday morning. But that is VincyCon. It's not, somebody else named it that. Vince did not name that. Bamboo made FDM easy, waiting for someone to do the same for Resident. Yeah, me too, kind of. Yeah. Seems like a lot of Warhammer YouTubers are getting into Gundam kits. Have you ever built one? If so, how was your experience? I never built one. I bought one. I was this is back when I worked at my last day job. I worked at Milk Can Technologies. It's a company that makes apps and websites and stuff like that and everything. Anyway, one day for lunch, not all of us, but a couple of us went to some taco place, and it's like kind of just down the street from Hobbytown, USA. And so we went over there to just kind of look at things, after we got done eating tacos. And every Hobbytown USA is, I believe, owned by it's like a franchise. Like there's an owner that owns it. And then, so they're all kind of different. And this particular one in Appleton, Wisconsin, was at the time just chock full of Gundam. Like that's most of what they had was Gundam. And this is, I don't know, 2018 maybe. And I'm looking at the models and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the thing is, my GW brain is kicked in, so I'm looking at this one particular model. I'm like, oh, this is probably like a $60 or $70 model. It's pretty cool. It's not super big, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I look at the price on it, and it was $14. And I was like, why is GW spending, or why are they so expensive? So anyway, I bought that model with the idea that I was going to make a video someday about why are these so cheap and GWs are so expensive and all that kind of stuff. And then I never did. And then relatively recently, Rogue Hobbies did, Louise. So good on her. She's been getting into Gundam. The second issue is I just have no interest in Gundam. Like I've never been an anime guy. I've never, I don't know. There's honestly something about the aesthetic of them I don't like. It's just me though. They're too, I don't know. I like robots that look slightly more functional. Like these robots are so the Gundam robots to me are so like just big people. They don't like their knees don't go the wrong way generally, or they don't have like guns attached to the end of their arms. They don't look like robots. They look like robot people that are huge. And I'm just it's not for me. But that being said, I should still build that model because just I could learn more about, again, the difference between building GW models these days, which get worse and worse every year, in my opinion, as far as complexity for not a lot of reason, versus like the Gundam models are supposed to be amazing. Like they're as far as ease of building and all that kind of jazz. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. How's my experience? Heil from Germany, putting milliput to my miniature bases. Nice. Durability and toxicity is really the final hurdle for resin printing. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I have this weird obsession growing to get OG tack marines specifically for use in kitbash for sci-fi games like Stargrave. I think a OG tack marine, especially if you swap the head out, like I have a bunch of like angry looking gray alien heads that I got from Puppets War. And I think if you just built the power armor, like the normal GW old school, like tack marine power armor, and then instead of putting like a normal helmet in there, you just put a gray alien head in there. Like in my mind, that looks awesome. But this Grey Knight, like I built a Justicar and he was just this little tiny guy and he had this big stupid hammer because I decided I wanted to use the demon hammer, but the hammer was like it was like almost 2 times his height, and I'm like, what? It just, I don't know, it just looked like garbage. And I've been building Primaris for years now, and I just really prefer their proportions. Their legs are a lot longer and it looks better and everything. I don't know, I just like them a lot better. I know some people don't like them, that's cool too, but I like them. My nose is just absence can take a very long time to get used to. Take it easy on yourself. I appreciate that. Resin still suffers from too many points of failure and post-processing drag. Yeah, it is. Is Horus Heresy really that popular, or is it just that many people prefer the Horus Heresy aesthetic? The new Horus Heresy battle forces are way better than most combat patrol boxes. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know much about Horus Heresy. Yeah, I don't know. I got friends that play it. I know that. Like I like the concept of it. I got to be honest. Just Space Marines on Space Marines, that's not bad in my opinion. Like I did not enjoy back in the day playing against Eldar, playing against like Dark Eldar, playing against like all these weird aliens that when you play against it and you're a Space Marine guy and then you're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then they're like, oh, I have a grenade that destroys all your vehicles. Like, really? And they're like, well, unless I roll a 1, then it doesn't. Then it just destroys half your vehicles or whatever, like the first time a guy I was playing with used a haywire grenade on me and he told me what it did, I was like, excuse me? And like, whatever that stupid Eldar floaty tank that's a transport but also shoots like 30 different guns and all this kind of crap, like, so the idea of just like, hey, I'm a Space Marine, you're a Space Marine, let's fight, and I kind of know what's going on with both of us, to me at least is a little bit interesting. But, that being said, I'm just not, and again, they're slightly better shaped, but they're still real small little dudes. Have 3 Kurul boys to finish for a Spearhead gathering I arranged at the FLGS this week. Pulled the Discord server and got a bunch of interested gamers. Nice. Have you revisited laser cut MDF terrain and other laser cutting stuff lately? I'm just getting into it and I'm loving it. I got to be honest, I'm much more into 3D printed terrain than laser cut terrain these days because you can just have so much more detail. Laser cut's real nice for like shipping around the world, and there's certain things that laser cut does well. I have I just dug this up recently. These are from a company called Brutal Cities out of Australia, and they do this kind of brutalism kind of like architectural design. Like that makes near perfect sense for laser cut terrain, right? But like a fantasy building doesn't look good with laser cut terrain. You know what I mean? Generally, sci-fi buildings can, or even modern kind of buildings can. You know, because brutalism's been around since, I don't know, the early 1900s, I think. I was going to build that, but I haven't gotten to it. I've built 5 of them, but I didn't build that one. The base on it is too big for the project I'm trying to work on, so I'm going to use it for something else. But anyway, doing the gaming evangelism thing, that's a good idea. Dropped in late. Good to hear you have best con ever soon. Nice, appreciate it. On the topic of painting at VincyCon, as much as I'd love to meet and chat with all the guys one day, I'm not sure I'd be comfortable painting with the guys either. I mean, you know, it's pretty sure just like the Techromancer title, Vincey was bestowed by Ninja. Maybe. Sounds like something that John and Scott... I mean, it does sound something like that Scott and John came up with the name VincyCon, but it might have been another friend of ours that called it that. I could be wrong. Reason GW does anything is simple, shareholders. Yeah, I get that. But I'm trying to figure out what the intermediary step is between, like, we've made our models really hard to build, profit. Like, I don't know what step 2 is in that situation. Like, why does this? Partially, I'm sure it's because it makes it... I know partially it's so that it makes the sprue narrower. I had a sprue around here. What did I do with it? Oh, right here in front of me, Jesus. So, like, sprues like this. This is not a GW sprue. This is a... What is this? These are the automatons from Wargames Atlantic. But if you look at them from this angle, right? Right here, there. So that's how, like, you know, narrow it is. And the narrower it is, the more you can fit into a box, or the more you can fit into a smaller box. And I think part of what GW is doing is trying to make these things as narrow as possible so they break up stuff. But I've also had people go, oh, they're doing it too to stop recasters, which I'm like, I don't know about that necessarily. But like these guys here, right? You can see, if I put my hand in there, you've got 5 bodies on that sprue, and you've got torso and legs, right? Torso and legs, and then you glue on head and arms and other bits, and there you go. Now, you can't, like, sure, it's not quite as posable. You can't torso twist as much when it's torso and legs together, but models go together real fast. If this was a GW model, the front and the back of each torso, or the front and the back of each torso would be 2 pieces, and then the legs would be 2 to 3 pieces, and then, you know, so... And I also understand that part of it is because then they can add more more detail. When they add more detail, like, think about this, right? This is not a rubber mold. These are steel molds, or maybe aluminum, but still metal molds. So what happens is when the machine pulls the mold apart in 2 pieces, this thing has to fall out, right? If it gets stuck on one side or the other, that's not great. It doesn't make things happen fast enough. You've got to go, it's got to, like, pop, and this thing's got to drop into a bin, basically, right? So any kind of undercuts, like on a piece of detail, you have to kind of smooth out so that when the mold goes, like, apart, that this can pop out. If there's, like, a part where the mold has to kind of curl around something to get more detail, then it can't pop out of the metal mold. When you use rubber molds, which are not great for this type of thing, then you can kind of wiggle and flex the mold, and you can pop out a piece of detail that's actually a bit of an undercut. But you can't do that with metal. So I think partially why they're doing that, speaking of Horus Heresy, when the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness box came out, I don't know, 3 years ago or whatever, they've always had shoulder pads for Space Marines, obviously. And they used to have these kind of, like, studded ones, but the studs that were, like, right on the edge, on the center of, if you're looking at the, you know, the, whatever you call it, the shoulder pad, right in the center, those studs are completely sticky outy, right? You know what I mean? They're just like a thing that sits on there. But the studs on the sides of the shoulder pads always were kind of elongated because they have to be able to slide out of the molds when it opens up, right? So I think that's why the studded shoulder pads in Horus Heresy were in 2 pieces now, because then they could take both of them and turn them on the thing, and then the studs will point out the proper way when you pull them out of the mold. But if you wanted the studs to look as good as they do on the newer Horus Heresy things, but you wanted it to be a single piece, shoulder pad, you can't have both. So I think that's part of the reason. Some people talk about recasting, and I think there's also something to the thinness, but I think that the reason they're doing it is so they can add more detail. And that's great and all, except now an Imperial Guardsman is 20 pieces. And I'm like, I don't think I need that. You know what I mean? Like, let's find a happy medium between the old days and the new. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I like to build Gundams on vacation so I can hobby but don't have to bring paints and stuff. I love the mechanics and the building experience. Well, that's cool. I'm glad to hear it. Gundams build amazing, but yeah, they feel about the same. Sure. Reason GW does anything, yeah. I might be why I soon migrated to Mashishkin Krieger. I don't think I catch the... Oh, is that a different type of Gundams or something? Bandai engineering is awesome. Again, as a modeler, I can appreciate the way they are made. They make Star Wars kits that are awesome. I've heard about the Star Wars kits. Like, they've got, like, X-Wings and TIE Fighters and stuff like that. Have you played or built anything for Flames of Orion? Do I have my Flames of Orion book around here? I think so. Ah, right here. These are the alpha test rules that I picked up a couple of years back at Adepticon. So yeah, I have played some. I also have the newer rules that he sold at Adepticon this year, but now there's even a newer set or whatever, but I haven't picked that up yet. I've got at least two sets of models. I've got Gardens of Hecate's models. I've got those painted. And then there was a set of models they were selling at Adepticon this year that I've also built and got painted too. I haven't played in a minute though. So especially not with the new rules and stuff. So I do need to. I've been keeping an eye on the Discord, and he's got everything near done, and he's gone through editing and this and all that and layout. And so pretty soon the actual book is going to come out, and then I'll probably order that. But it is a fun game. I like skeletons, but that's just me, I guess. I mean, skeletons are cool. Maybe you should look into Votom's models. Bandai makes some that are nice. I don't know what a Votom is, but that's cool. What paint pens do you recommend for the hobby? Not to replace anything, but to add to the multi-toolbox? Currently, like, I do like for certain things. They don't fit into most of my workflows, but I do like the Army Painter speed paint markers. They're not opaque, they're transparent because they're speed paints, but they're nice for being able to... I don't use them that much because I use Grim Black, but I don't really use them that much because it's not how I normally paint. But one of the benefits to them, obviously, is the fact that I had somebody just recently tell me that they were just like, I can sit and paint like board game models on the couch with my wife while we're watching TV or a movie, because I don't need like a pot of water and a wet palette and this and that and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I just am doing the colors with markers. And they're good for like base coating. Like if you've got like a Zenithal type kind of model, and then you quickly do, let's say it's the skeleton, and you use pallid bone or whatever, whichever color that's skeleton related, bony matter or pallid bone, I don't remember which one, but they will have more colors in the future. But you use that and you paint just all the bone parts, and you use that and it's fine. Like, it's hard to get into certain edges and like little areas with the markers, but that's to be expected. Otherwise, if I'm looking for something opaque, the only things that I've used are the Sharpie creative markers, and I've mainly used them for trying to do like graffiti on pieces of terrain and stuff like that mostly. So. Let's see here. I just printed a nice size mech off of my A1 with the 0.2 millimeter nozzle at 0.06 millimeter layers. Wow. Perfect quality and durability. Nice. I'll have to take a look at that. That's very cool. Because I thought about doing the one that I did, which only ended up being 5 inches, and he still took 22 hours. But I was using the point 0.4 nozzle, and it's not bad. But I thought about doing the point 0.2 nozzle, but then I was like, if I do the point 0.2 nozzle, it's going to be like, it's going to take 3 days or something. But I haven't tried the point 0.2 nozzle for a big robot yet. Well, a small robot. When I did that video where I had the robot printed in resin and then I printed it in FDM, that was a 0.2 nozzle. But that guy's only like, I don't know, maybe 3 inches tall, 3.5. Mr. Hobby makes a leveling primer for the airbrush, but it likely requires spirits. Oh yeah, no, and that stuff's, yeah, there's a lot of fumes and all that kind of stuff, at least with most of the Mr. Hobby stuff. I know that Vince swears by the Mr. Hobby primer, but yeah, it's also, it's something you need to kind of have ventilation for because of the fumes and not the particulate. I've really enjoyed the Aliens games. Super Sculpts was fun painting them. I've accumulated everything Shatterpoint and Legion, but not yet played a game. Gotcha. One thing that rankles my cankles about Horus Heresy is when people on YouTube pronounce it Horus Heresy. Horus? I don't know. Oh, well, I mean, it kind of sounds, I don't know. Horus versus Horus. Because how am I saying it? I don't even know. Like, I say both of the Horus and Horus. I say those like the same. In my, I don't know. You gave the reason of why I like Zaiku 2. Most of the Gundams are the ones that look most functional, like a tank. Oh, okay, I getcha. Brutalism is 1970s-ish. The Brutal Cities guys and architects, so the modern brutalist thing might come naturally, and they do Greeblies and add-ons to kits. Yeah, I got one of the add-on kits too. See, I thought the brutalism thing was from the like 20s or something like that, wasn't it? I don't know. There was that movie called The Brutalist, and I thought it was about the guy who invented like that type of style. Adrian Brody. I don't know. It looked like it was the 70s, maybe it just, or it looked like the 20s, but I could be wrong. Seen lots of examples of folks putting buildings on bases instead of just plopping the buildings on the table. Game mat. Is there something to be gained from this basing that I'm missing? Well, so it sort of depends on the game. Sometimes, like GW with 10th edition, they're like, it would be best if your ruins had a base, so you knew when you were in ruins versus out of ruins, which I get, and I made a video about that and showed how I put bases onto my ruins. And in the grand scheme of things, I kind of prefer the look. To me, if you just have a ruin like on a game mat, right? So you got an L-shaped thing with like a second floor and it's the standard look, and you just go, there you go, it's on the game mat. Then there's no pile of rubble underneath it. You know what I mean? Whereas if it's on a base that's kind of organically shaped, you know, and then you put some texture and stuff like that in there, you kind of maybe make it a different color so that it's not the same color, obviously, as the game mat or whatever, then there's some benefit to that, I think, to make it look a little bit more interesting, at least to me. And also if the game really is like you have to be in or out, that kind of thing, then it's also nice too. I know competitively, though I don't play competitively, but I was just at a tournament a couple weeks ago, hanging out. I know competitively the GW, like the 40K people specifically, they want a specific demarcation of where the terrain is. Sure, it's a 3-dimensional thing, but it's really about those weird clear plastic shapes that they're really into. Which I'm glad I don't play competitively, because those tables just don't look good that way. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a store owner, and he said he paid to have all this 3D printed terrain that's gorgeous and all this kind of stuff, and then he paid some folks to paint it, and then he's like, and then when the competitive 40K players come in, he says they come in and they take that terrain and they take it off the table and they put it underneath the table, and then they take out terrain that's got like just L-shaped MDF laser cut piece of acrylic, and they lay those down and make like a mirror match, and then they do that. And I'm like, I mean, that's cool if they got the option to do so, but it's just not for me. So yeah, I don't know. I like putting basing on ruins these days because it just adds another dimension to the ruins, but you don't have to, obviously. Well, if you're playing competitively 40K, you might have to, or at least if you want to go to an event. I don't know. But as far as just like a non-ruin building, like an actual just building, I kind of like it just because it adds another little layer of, it has nothing to do with the game. It just looks a little cooler because it adds like a sidewalk around it or a curb or something like that. I like that look. It becomes a little bit slightly more immersive than just like box on table. Though, to be fair, I also have plenty of those as well. coming out of Bauhaus design. That's what I thought too. Yeah. Part of it is allowing more complexity in the shapes and details of the models. Yeah. I've been doing nothing but assembling Gene Stealer Cults models for 3 weeks straight. Yeah. And now I'm questioning my life choices. I can understand that. All the Clan Rats and Scaventide were 2 pieces for the most part. That was wildly refreshing. I agree. Yeah. Like, that's the thing, is those like launch boxes are always like basically kind of push fit. And it is so nice to just be like, I can just, there you go. Just put these guys together and it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny that people complain about like, I don't get any customization with push fit models. And then not like this, because these are customizable to some degree. You can swap things around. Push fit models are not customizable. And then you get models from GW these days that are barely customizable. You can be like, you can build a guy this way, or you can build the same guy with a slightly different, weapon loadout. And those are the 2 things you can do with them. That's it. No more customization. I don't know. Would paint pens be good for Space Marine lenses? Maybe. I don't know how. So what I do with Space Marine lenses these days now is I use a white brush and I just paint the lenses white and then let that totally dry. And then I use a blob of speed paint over the white. So maybe either green or red or, whatever. And the benefit to that then is that you get a little bit of variation where it's lighter in the middle, and then because it's a 3-dimensional shape, and then as the stuff collects around on the inside, the speed paint, it collects around on the inside, and then it kind of gets darker around the where it sinks in. I don't usually go back and put that little tiny white dot in there. Maybe on an HQ model, but not on a normal dude. But that's generally, yeah. And then the benefit too is that if you get a little bit of extra speed paint around the edges or even on the edge of the top of then it kind of looks a little bit more like glow. I don't know. It works out for me. That's what I've been doing. Did you ever play the Starship Troopers miniatures game? I didn't, but I did have some of the models. Basic Troopers were each 10 pieces to assemble. Real pain, but when it was a squad-based game. Yeah, but they were... It was also like, it wasn't like, I have to look to find this particular, like I remember those models too, because it was a lot of just like, here are a bunch of heads, here are a bunch of torsos, here are arms, here are legs. And so, yeah, they were a bunch of parts, especially because they had those weird little shoulder pads. I do remember the weird little shoulder pads. I've used those weird little shoulder pads in a lot of other games. That was mainly the problem, was the weird little shoulder pads, if I remember correctly. Because they just sort of put a drop of glue in the shoulder and you just kind of was that, this will be somewhere around there. It's like one of those, it's like when you got a bad kneecap and it just sort of floats around inside of you, whatever, inside your knee area. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, the GW ones these days are so puzzle piece-ish, and I don't see the big benefit to it. And that's, yeah. Love the show. Oh, thank you, Adam. That's nice. Hope you have a great time at VincyCon. Good way to get through the trying time in your life. I mean, to some degree, sure, I think so. Played a cool little indie game a couple of weeks ago. It's called Thren Odyssey. Good mechanics, skirmish game, 5 models per side, 24 by 24. See, I want us to make a game that's on a 2-foot board one of these days. It encourages dense terrain setup. Nice. Well, that sounds fun. Yeah. I understand the AK markers are also good, but not speed paints. No, they don't. From what I've heard, they're like opaque, right? I think so. I haven't used any of the AK stuff. The mech on the -2 model. That's not what. The mech on the 0.2 millimeter nozzle, a -2 millimeter nozzle. I don't even know what that means. Took me 4 print plates and 3 days on and off. So yeah, exactly. That definitely slows you down, but I bet you it looks really good. Post on Discord eventually. My friend Dave, my 3D printer friend Dave, bottleandspool.com, he suggested something that I've never tried yet with the Bamboo Studio. It's something called variable line height, like, because you can set the line height and say, hey, I want to do this, whatever. But then I guess there's a thing you can do that's variable line height, where you literally look at the shapes and you paint the areas on using your mouse or whatever, like areas where you want the line height to get better. So like if you have like some sort of thing and as it prints up the sides, it'll be fine, but then it starts to round and then goes like this. Sides should probably be the regular line height, and it should be a little bit more wary when it does this, otherwise you get more stepping, you know what I mean? And so I do want to try that out for fun. And like I said, I'm also going to try to print this robot again, but do it all in separate parts, so that, you know, it's a little bummer because I have to put it together, but hopefully it'll print properly. So Kin Sung, how you doing? Legs, torso, 2 arms, shoulder pads, and gun, visor. Oh yeah, it had a tiny little yellow clear visor. Yeah. I love the Gene Stealer Cult minis, but yes, when I built most of the mine in 8th edition, it was questioning my will to live. Yeah. What's your opinion of the Halo skirmish game? Halo Flashpoint? I enjoy it. I own whatever the little recon pack, something like that, whatever the small little box was that they did that had like 2 sets of 4 Spartans. That was about it. And then some like cardboard buildings and whatnot. And I've painted my Spartans. I've got one group that's like military green and one group that's like military like tan. Pretty simple paint jobs, but they're fun. I remember when I said that I was going to do that, I had a guy in the comments who basically begged me not to do that. And he's like, it would just be so much better if you would paint them like, you know, like you're supposed to, like, you know, in all the metallic, like reds and blues and greens and whatever, and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you. He's very, you know, invested though. And I feel bad for him. If it keeps Mantic in the black so that they can keep making Dead Zone, I say good on them. There you go. I prefer customization to my kits. That's probably why I don't build GW as much anymore. Very static in their building. Yes, they are. They're very static. I agree. I low-key hate 3D print minis that come in pieces to assemble with glue after printing. I'm not a big fan either, but I'll be honest. Like, there's a lot of times, like, it depends, I guess. Like, I'm building some 3D print models right now that come in pieces. That being said, it's because of variability or customization, right? Like, they're these kind of Primaris sort of kind of Grey Knight looking guys, but not exactly. Their entire torso, arms, legs, tabard, all that crap is all one piece. And then you can print different heads, different hands holding weapons, different shoulder pads. The shoulder pads they want you to glue on separately. And I don't know if it's just so you can put the shoulder pads on that you want, because there's a lot of different shoulder pads in the kit, you know, the STLs, or if they're thinking that people are going to do what I'm doing and just put GW shoulder pads on them or whatever. But yeah, like what's the other one that did that too? The Vevictus 28 Realms or whatever ones that I did that I'm not finished painting yet. Those were all, you know, heads and torsos and legs and arms and all that stuff. And that I don't mind that much, because in that situation, I do feel like I'm building more of a thing like this, as opposed to GW where you're like, okay, we'll put, you know, piece 27, glue that hand onto the 2-part arm that you had to do in the previous step. And like, ugh. So yeah, I don't know. Like, if it's a super dynamically posed thing, then yeah, I would prefer for it to be just printed as one piece with it. If you're going to be 3D printing it anyway, it makes sense. But with sometimes I don't mind a little bit of customization or whatever, putting pieces together. I don't know. Just hopped on. What do you think of the new edition of Conflict 47? I started trying to build some Fireflies, and I'm not happy with how they're built. There's something weird going on that I'm doing wrong, I think, with their shoulders. The guys are holding onto these Thompson machine guns, and one of the guys, to put it together, I almost had to bend the Thompson machine gun to fit it onto the torso. So I don't know if I'm not following instructions properly. That's happened before, Lord knows, but I just was like, I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably wait on those for a little bit more, but yeah. Isn't every game a 2x2 game if you believe in yourself? I mean, yes, for the most part, it's true. But I like this. Like, yeah, I do want us to make a 2x2 game one of these days. Also, just because it's so much easier to make terrain, or not terrain, but like boards, because you can go to, at least for me, I can go to Lowe's and buy these, like, I can buy these project boards, they're called, and it's like green, like insulation foam stuff, like the stuff they put on the outside, but it's the green stuff, so it's even a little bit more stiff. and they just cut it in 2x2s. And then they also have these pieces of wood that are exactly 2x2. And then, I mean, yeah, it's cool. Ever looked into Great Helm? It's roughly historical mini skirmish. I mean, Malev was just JP Got Rocket says like, yeah, Malev was just in here, or maybe he is still in here. I don't know. But yeah, I was super glad to see how well it did on the Kickstarter, or was it GameFound? One of the two. I'm all for game and mini customization, but too much, and it's not even the actual game anymore. I mean, as long as you're having fun, in my mind, that's the main thing. But you know, how do you print FDM models and parts? Most of my printing has been one-piece models. They have to come in parts if you're going to do that. Like for my stuff, yeah. Like if I'm printing, well, honestly, though, if I'm printing terrain, a lot of terrain comes in multiple parts if it's big enough, because your print plate is only so big. I did this Necromancer's Tower that was like, I don't know, maybe 5 parts. Like it was sculpted as one kind of big thing, but then they must have used some sort of tool to cut it up into parts so that it was easier to print. So yeah, the robot, this is very weird. So the robot, I have this STL and it is like in a shape and he's already like posed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, cool, I'll just print that. Then I won't have to glue anything together or anything like that. So like I said, I blew it up, didn't blow it up enough, only did it 177% when I thought I was doing 177 millimeters, which, you know, won't make that mistake again, hopefully. So he ended up being only 5 inches high instead of 7 inches high. And then he's covered, obviously, in all these supports and stuff like that. I had trees, supports turned on, and blah, blah, everything. So I'm peeling all that stuff off. I decided it was a gorgeous day, so I'm sitting outside in the garage, kind of like by the, you know, the main, they got the door open and I'm there and I'm like, you know, listening to a podcast and peeling off all these. And then I start to realize that the parts are coming apart. Like he is in a pose, holding his gun, doing all this stuff. It's a cool looking model, but whoever put that together, like in the shape, it's a lot of like ball and socket, like where the shoulders go and where like the legs go in and all that kind of stuff. And whoever, like, when they sculpted that model up, or at least positioned that model after sculpting all the parts, they made the ball and socket technically not touch. So they weren't like if you take 2 shapes, right? You take a square or like a cube and a circle. And in a 3D printing program, when you're working in 3D, if you make them touch and intersect, when you print them, they will be as one piece, right? You can't pull them apart. But if you made the cube have a perfect cutout in it that was exactly the same size as the sphere, and you just got them so close, printing is accurate enough that then when you take off all the supports and all that stuff, you could pull the circle out of there and still have the hole, which I don't want when it's all one piece. But as I start peeling pieces off, I thought I broke something, but no, it just turned out that it was in a pose. But when you take all the supports off, everything comes apart. And I'm like, well, that's kind of not useful. Then I had to glue it all back together again, I guess is the point. So I could go in and tweak it myself so it wouldn't do that. As I said, like I think it's going to be best if I print all the parts separately, and then it allows me to position them differently so that they work. Now, again, this is a robot. You don't do this with people models usually. Some they do. They design them so that they've got like, again, like something kind of like this, where you've got like, oh, torso and legs is one part, and then there's arms, but they usually do that more for modularity and being able to swap weapons, but, you know, it depends. It's different when this is to make it print correctly, or this is modular arms, but a monopose model. Yeah, no, a monopose model in resin and it's in multiple parts seems dumb, unless it's massive, again, like I said. City of Heroes Champions, Heroes Unlimited mini agnostic game of superheroes would print money. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if a superhero game that's not related to a license specifically, because I've thought about it. I'm like, why isn't there a miniatures game that's just like you can custom build your superhero? Like, we used to play this video game where you could custom build your superheroes, and we would do PvP battles all the time. It was called Freedom Force. It was a PC game back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. We used to play it at LAN parties sometimes too, and it was a hoot. And you could make like whatever kind of creature, you know, not creature, but like whatever kind of like superhero you wanted. You could customize your powers and things like that, and then it would like kind of like you could have like battles, and it was great. It was awesome. But I've just never really seen that as a big thing in miniatures. I've kicked around the idea, like we, you know, Vince and I have thought about it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. A bit slow off the mark this morning, but happy every other Sunday show. Well, how you doing, Blue 9? I hope you're doing okay. Doing good. Currently building Deathwatch kill team to use in my 40k army. Models look great, and I like customization, so if they all look different in the same unit, then even better. I mean, the benefit is that if you go a little bit more crazy posing as far as the sculptors are concerned, then yeah, you do get really, interesting looking stuff, except then if you have to use that unit twice, now you have 2 units of the same looking guys, like in the exact same poses. When you're making them super, like, dynamic, oh, this guy's jumping off a rock and he's gonna got a gun and there's all this, and he's in this crazy position. If you have to make 2 squads of those guys, then you're like, wow, there's 2 of those guys doing the exact same weird, crazy, sick maneuver. That's kind of an issue, but it depends, I guess, on how you do it. I don't know. For me specifically, here's the thing that I really like to see in a sculpt of a guy who is fighting in a battle. I like to see him fighting in the battle. You know what I mean? Like, every once in a while, you'll get like, hey, we're gonna make this sculpt of a guy who's like reloading his gun. And you're like, he's gonna get shot. Like, he's in a fight right now. You know that. Or they're like looking at like a map or something like that. And I'm like, I just want them to be like, I'm shooting, I'm doing something. I'm attacking, as opposed to I'm looking on my phone or I'm doing my time card or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, I get it. If you were doing like a diorama and you wanted like this guy over here to have a little vignette where he's like, I don't know, making a sandwich or something like that, and then you'd have that sculpt. But I don't want the making the sandwich guy to be in my squad of guys who are supposed to be fighting. I don't know. I'm playing Conflict 47. Don't sleep on this game. It's exceptional. I mean, I think the rules are really good. I'm just, yeah, I'm currently having a little bit of trouble with the models, a little bit. I merge parts in Blender before printing, if it makes sense. Yeah, I can understand that. I adore Vivictus modulars. I was actually thinking of some White Werewolf Tavern ones. Gotcha. Greetings from Belgium. How you doing? Thanks for the content you are sharing on the internet. New to hobby of painting. Should start soon. Well, cool. Best day to start painting was last week, and the next best day is today. So definitely start doing it. Like, watching things and stuff like that to learn is important, but you definitely also, you learn the most by actually wiggling the brush around. So I've made a video about it earlier this year, I think. Just like go and get whatever. I went to the thrift store and bought plastic dinosaurs, and then I primed them and then just practice painting on them and stuff like that, or plastic army men, or whatever kind of stuff you can. I think it's not a great idea, especially when you're starting out. If you really love this model that you bought and it's like inspired you to want to paint, I would not use that as your first model, especially if it's expensive and fancy. Use some, crack out some cheap stuff for a bit and get the idea of how brushes work and all that kind of stuff and everything. And then, you don't have to go for very long. It's not like you have to like practice on plastic garbage for, 3 years, like your sensei said, or whatever. It's just, I was thinking of like Kill Bill, where she has to punch the thing. Don't do that. Just, punch it a little bit and then start punching for real with paint. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, just want to say hi and hope you have fun with Vince and the gang. I think that'll be a good time. Sorry I'm late. I want to say I hope you're doing well. I appreciate that, Cobra. 3D print where the ball and sockets don't touch, just another road that leads to the same eventual hobby endpoint, pinning. I guess, but they're so light. That's the thing about FDM that I like, especially when something's that large. I don't generally pin. Yeah, I suppose you could. I don't know. Wirehead, how you doing? One particular thing, the one in particular I'm thinking is actually super tiny. Gotcha. Freedom Force rocked. It was a fun game. We used to play that a lot, and like I said, at LAN parties. Greetings from Quebec. How you doing? What slicer is used when printing with the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini? Any additional accessories recommended? Think about pulling the purchase trigger. They have their own software. It's called Bamboo Studio, and that's what I use. It's really pretty powerful. I mean, I've seen people sculpt in it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I need a thing or whatever, and they can just, from what I've been told, you can sculpt directly in Studio, which I've never tried, but not directly. I did take a model so when I did that video earlier in the year where I had like the FDM model versus the resin model, what I did was to print that FDM model which was a bunch of parts, I went back in and put it all together and reposed it basically in Studio. So it's pretty powerful. It's fiddly. It takes a while to do that, especially all the different parts and everything like that. But then when I printed it out, it came out as one piece. And then afterwards, everyone in the comments was like, probably should have printed it as separate pieces because then you could have oriented them better and it would have looked better. And I'm like, probably true. But this was easier. And honestly, after about a foot away, it looks fine. So, you know, when you're using it on the tabletop, then it looks fine. There is a superhero minis game, Power Legion, roughly based on the heroic RPGs from the 80s. Power Legion, I've never heard of it. Let's see here. Watched your recent vid and connected deeply. Well, I appreciate that, Elmo. Freedom Force was great because it had all the lore and the world building. I think a superhero skirmish game would need the same, lots of story details to get into the theme. Yeah, like I think the concept of a superhero miniatures game would probably, you'd have to have some world building, but I think that you, rather than being like, I'm going to take this guy who's got like his own thing already, you would need to write up your own thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would help if you were playing to have like, you'd probably use a team. It would be like a team versus a team. You'd have the Justice Gang or whatever versus the, you know, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would be something that people would want. It would be difficult to figure out what to do for models. That's a thing. But tuning in from Swindon. Hope you're doing okay. I appreciate that, Gary. 3D printing. I own a small web shop for mainly 1/35th scale army thingies. Always try to make everything in one piece. It's also because I build and paint. Some people hate the attached. Sure, I get that. Supposed to add that he'd escaped and flown the coop to another province. Ooh. Built the August free mini I had in my backlog last night and based it, so I'm priming and working on some Tyranid rippers. I got at a friend's birthday thing. Nice. I got a thing for a friend's birthday thing. Nice. The only reason I came back to the hobby after 15 years away was when a close friend lost his battle with mental health and I needed something to keep my hands busy during my grieving. Yeah, I do really think it's good for that kind of thing. I mean, I think that, and I've been saying this for years, I think that, you know, this stuff, this hobby, you're focusing with your hands, like I was talking about before, I generally don't like to paint around other people, partially because I just kind of like, I got my headphones and I got my thing and I'm just not paying attention to pretty much anything. I'm just doing, and I think there's something to be said about being able to change your focus when you're in a bad way or whatever, you know. But yeah. Honor of spooky season, painting skellies and barrel whites. Nice. It's a cool superhero game called Supers by Elijah. Oh, yeah. You're right. That's right. Yeah. He did, oh, no, I can't think of the name of it. No. Wait, what was it? Star Breach. Yeah. I was second guessing myself, whatever. Yeah, he did Star Breach, and he's also got a superhero game called Supers. That's right. I forgot about that. Power Legion is Ganesha Games. Oh yeah, Song of Blades and Heroes. Sure, that makes sense. Blue 9, I appreciate that. Richard Wong, listening while painting some Necromunda. Nice. Used to play Champions back in the day. Was Champions a video game or an RPG? I don't remember. A tabletop RPG. I don't remember. Superhero spinoff of Majestic 13. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, because the teams that you have in Majestic 13, your team of 5 people, they're not exactly superheroes. They're not super. They're like kind of normal. They have some maybe, you know, super weapons sometimes, depending on if they've got retech stuff, you know. But yeah. I do a lot of Boolean sculpting in Bamboo Studio. Very fun. Yeah, that's the whole, you know, like when you take let's say a cube and then a sphere, and you put the sphere inside the cube, and then you subtract the sphere from the cube, and then you have like a rounded out bit that's left over. That's what they call Boolean or Boolean. Anyway, it's you either add things together or you subtract things. Those are basically the main two things that you do. Do you like playing Stargrave? Do you wear wigs? Yes, I haven't in a while, but I have in the past for sure, and I love the models. Have you played it recently? I have not played it recently. What have I been playing and enjoying? Trench Crusade, some Space Weirdos. Oh, there's a new add-on for Space Weirdos. It's fan made, but with Gary, with Casey Garsky, which is why I was thinking Gary, with Casey's permission or whatever, or licensing. I don't know. Wargame Vault. This may take a few moments. Okay. Oh, I think it's at number 1 right now. Yeah. Cool. Websites. There we go. Yep. Oh, also, Wargame Vault has changed their look now. It is a different thing. It's I'm not sure I like it. It's okay. But yeah, so Space Weirdos Weird Millennium is something. Community demanded more Weirdos content, and I said, do it yourself. And so they did. Weird Millennium contains fan-made content for Space Weirdos. General advice for running games of Space Weirdos, house rules, additional weapons, psychic powers, blah, blah. Campaign rules, more example war bands, fan resources, online links. How can you charge for fan-created content, you ask? All proceeds from sales of this zine go to charity. Receipts posted monthly on the Space Weirdos and Friends Discord. It's $5. Just buy it. There you go. There you go. Not the same artist on the cover, but it's still pretty cool. How many pages is it? 16. So it's the same size as Space Weirdos. So Space Weirdos is a 16-page zine that you can print out, and this is also 16 pages, and I bet you it's probably also printable too. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, but yeah, I'm glad they did that. I'm gonna have to pick it up because I want to learn. I like to see house rules and fun stuff like that. Let's see here. Got to get back to work. Night all. Thank you. Take it easy. Absolutely, Sundered Psyche. My first models would be Space Crusade. I was a 9-year-old back then and took the game from my parents' home. Nice. Then I'll paint my Maladum minis. Double slap chop for me to start. Nice. Good to hear. I think the issue with generic superhero games is people are afraid of Marvel DC suing them like they tried to sue City of Heroes. Well, that could be. I almost got through a whole box of Wargames Atlantic Lizardmen. Now just need to put some tufts and leaves on them. Heavily customized from the base set. First fully cleared box. Nice. My wife and I are entering an Orktober painting competition, and it's her first mini ever. The hobby really is one of the best. I agree. One of these days, I'm going to remember to turn on the air purifier before I start slinging glue. I mean, yeah, but that day is not today. I get it. Whenever I've got my headphones on and I'm focusing on something with the hands, invariably is when my wife needs to talk to me. Well, Champions was an RPG. I thought so. Yeah. I played Heroes Unlimited once. No, I played Heroes Unlimited more. City of Heroes, the video game, had me making more superheroes and playing. Yeah, I do remember seeing people, go over like the like, hero building stuff and whatever. That's cool. When will you wear wigs? Exactly. I just saw that again recently. Let's see here. Thanks to input going shopping after the show. Nice. Spent Sunday morning at LVO with your hobby buddy Sam, learning some airbrush skills, about to put them to use. Nice. Yeah, he did a bunch of classes at LVO. So that's good. That's very cool. I'm glad that they're doing more classes and things like that at LVO. I think that's great. Currently attempting to take and edit decent photos of Meridian Miniatures Necropolis Priests I've just finished. Massive horse skull-faced Landsknecht. That's pretty cool. I'm at work, so I'll catch the VOD later, but wanted to stop by and say appreciate you and your videos. Well, I appreciate that too. Space Weirdos is for solo play? You can. Yeah, there's a thing somewhere that I downloaded that's got solo play too. I think it's a freebie. Yeah. As a painting beginner myself, I've found sets from Wargames Atlantic to hit a sweet spot of detail at a good price. Same here. Yeah, I just think that I don't know. I just like them. Those and the Stargrave models too, and the Frostgrave models. I'll be honest, I think I like the Stargrave models a little bit more than the Frostgrave models, but also I am generally more of a sci-fi guy than a fantasy guy. So, take that as you will. Welcome to A1 Club. First rule of A1 Club is to post all prints to the Discord. Champions was a TTRPG. There might have been a video game spinoff. It could have been. How are your digital sculpt projects going? I really need to get into it, but I'm so backlogged with traditional sculpts and converting. I don't think that mine are sculpts. I've been told that if it's organic stuff, then it's a sculpt, but otherwise it's modeling if it's not organic, like if it's hard surface and stuff, which is what I'm generally more frequently into. I haven't had the time, unfortunately, to really do any real sculpting. Part of what I'm looking forward to for going to Vince's next week for Vincey Con is I will probably do the sculpting there. So I will have my laptop. So I'll have my laptop and I will have an external screen that I'm bringing in my luggage. And then I will be able to work from there. Do I have plasticity on that? I don't remember if I have plasticity on that. I'll have to put plasticity on it if I can. But which is a sculpting program, which I honestly haven't used much lately, and unfortunately, so I've got to relearn a little bit of it. But there is also Tinkercad, which I have been messing with lately more, just for little things. Actually, there's a thing that I need. We have this security camera outside on the garage, and I want to. I'm concerned that the mount on it, it's sort of like, it's like a ball and then you tighten this thing up and then you can position it. And I just feel like it's eventually over time going to go like this. So I'm thinking about making like a little bracket, 3D printing, designing and then printing a little bracket thing that's going to sit under it that's going to hold that thing up so it doesn't droop. So I may do that, but currently it hasn't drooped yet. So we'll see how it goes. What are your thoughts on Quar? Quar are cool. I have 3 of them built for test for one faction, and I want to build 3 more and then kind of do some test painting on them at some point, but I haven't gotten to it. But they are sitting on my desk. 3 of them built. They are also a little. It's the arms thing. It's like I need to hold a gun in front of me, and if you make it so that that is one piece, it can be great, and sometimes maybe not so much. Like I said, the Fireflies from Conflict 47, I'm finding that their gun, which is already attached to arms, you just glue onto the shoulders of the torso. I'm just having some issues. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit the same with the Quar, getting them to put their rifles in the proper position. It's a little hard. Which is partially why, like, these models never give me that problem, and I don't know why. They're very specific, though, I think. I don't know. Just finished painting every box and expansion for Marvel Zombies. It took me only 3 months. Well, how you doing, Gaddis? That's it. Wow, that's pretty cool. Have you heard the game Hope is Dead, based on the Forbidden Psalm game engine based in a zombie apocalypse environment? I don't think so, no. I don't think I have. Do you read or watch anything for creative inspiration? So I get inspired for like terrain, like stuff that I want to design and things like that. I get inspired by sometimes movies and sometimes video games. If I had a game that was a little bit like, there's a lot of times I've got a friend that I watch on Twitch, a lovely man named Crotuck, and he plays a lot of Hunt Showdown. And there's so much terrain in Hunt Showdown that I'm like, oh, I would love to build that. You know what I mean? But it is of a very specific time, late 1800s, kind of Louisiana, sort of post-apocalyptic. And yeah, there's parts you're just like, I could do something so cool with that. But I have a tendency to mostly play generally sci-fi stuff. Some of that stuff would actually work relatively well for Trench Crusade, maybe. So that's a thing to think about as well. But when you're 3D sculpting stuff, everything I'm 3D sculpting is sci-fi stuff, because I don't know how to make like cobblestones. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's smart ways to do it and textures and blah, blah, and all this. But like when I look at like the 3D printed stuff that I've done for fantasy buildings, I'm like, I don't even know how you're doing that. That is crazy the way you've got all these. I mean, are you going through and placing three-dimensional cobblestones in each spot? Or is it like a plug-in that makes cobble? I don't know how this is happening. But when I'm like, oh, I'm going to make a concrete building or like a sci-fi thing or whatever, I'm going to sculpt it. That's way easier because it's a lot of flat shapes. Maybe with some greeblies and some dents in it or whatever, but that's about it. Hard surface modeling and reposing existing sculpts using bones is the limit of my 3D creation work. Yeah, yeah. If someone says technically you're not sculpting, you're modeling, feel free to tell them that technically you're. Well, sure. I don't mean it sort of makes sense, I guess, but you know, either way, it's vocabulary. What are you gonna do? No, you're not really into historicals, but do you have any experience with Victrix or Wargames Atlantic? Wargames Atlantic, yes. Victrix, I've never built any Victrix models, no. And as far as STLs for historicals, that I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm sure that they're out there. I'm sure there's plenty out there, but yeah, I haven't looked at that. It's called Hope for the Dead by. Oh, wait a minute. No, I think I have seen that. Hope for the Dead. Like I feel like I can see the cover in my head. Hope for the Dead. Hope is for the dead. This is not what I was thinking of. this is not what. But yeah, this is evidently relatively new. Oh, it was just added to the catalog at the end of August. But no, this is not what I was thinking of. But that's cool, you know. He does good work. Neato, copy affiliate link. Right there's a button. That's pretty cool. Anyway, but no, I haven't taken a look at that. Game is surviving the end of the world, miniature skirmish game, scavenging, killing zombies. That's pretty cool. Yeah, he cranks out stuff constantly, and that's very cool. I'm glad to see it. All terrain is sci-fi terrain. Well, depends on your division. Your you know, maybe. Recommended filament brands for Bamboo Labs A1. I generally just use the Bamboo Labs stuff. I just buy it straight from them. I like it because you can order from them either like when I first made my order of I ordered the machine and I ordered some filament. I order it with the it comes with the plastic spindles. And then from then on, any stuff that I'm ordering, I'm just ordering the filament and it doesn't come with a plastic spindle. It's just on like a cardboard core. And then you can take that and then the plastic spindles come apart. And then you can take the cardboard part and throw it away and then put the new thing on there, click, and then use it. So the plastic spindles are reusable, which is why I got like 4 when I first started or whatever. But yeah, since then I just buy the stuff with the core, which is nice. I love Hunt Showdown. It led me to buying into Dracula's America. Well, that makes sense. I can see that. Seems to kind of sort of be Hunt in wargame format. A little bit. Yeah. Take a lot of screenshots and Hunt for terrain painting ideas. That's a good idea too. I've done that. Not so much with Hunt, but I've done it with I was watching a video about the Forever Winter, which I still kind of want to play, but I haven't. It's not, you can't really play it on your Steam Deck, and my gaming PC is a little, so I don't know. I don't know if I want to get a new gaming PC or not. Like mainly these days I play PC stuff on my Steam Deck, but then obviously you can't play everything on your Steam Deck. Otherwise I'm playing video games mostly on my PlayStation 5. So that's when I do it, which it hasn't, honestly, I haven't played the PlayStation 5 in a minute. I did play some Diablo 4 on the Steam Deck last weekend. I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, yeah, I took screenshots from like a video of someone else playing that, and I used that as kind of the basis for like where I went with the building that I built actually at last. I built at VincyCon last year, the 3D shape, and I've printed it, and it is printed, and it is on a base, and it is primed, and it is textured, and the whole deal, and it's just sitting there in my airbrush room, and I'm like, I can't decide what color to paint it. You know what I mean? Like, I know that most buildings, for the most part, are either gray or brown. That's just sort of the way it works. but I'm like, but I want it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do blue or green. Like, I don't know. I should find a gray that I'm happy with and then just do it and then see where it goes. I don't know. But yeah, I just haven't painted it. Just saw Sarissa just released a bunch of laser cut trench terrain with the recent success of Trench Crusade. Coincidence? I think not. Oh yeah, people are making all kinds of stuff for that. I've been into tabletop gaming and heavy metal music for 30 years, and there are no better communities in the world. I definitely know that the heavy metal community is awesome. Paul, thank you very much. I hate minis in the Captain's Morgan foot on a barrel box or rock pose. Like this guy takes his box with him everywhere. Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, sometimes I can see that too. My favorite zombie game currently is Maximum Apocalypse, which is a tile and card-based game, but you can play with standees or minis if you want. Oh, that's kind of neat. Silver Bayonet is my tabletop version of Hunt. Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. I get it. Love my Steam Deck. Glad I extricated myself from Xbox before the drama started. Yeah, I own an Xbox, and I forget what it was that I got on the Xbox or why I bothered to get it, but I never really did a ton with it. I was more of a PlayStation guy, and so yeah, the Xbox has not. I don't think I've used it in a minute. But I know that they've been getting wackadoo lately, and there's been strange things going on over there. But you know, whatever. It's because it's not enough AI, evidently, probably. Do you ever struggle coming up how to paint your models? What do you do when you hit that hurdle? I have a tendency to, okay. So when I'm painting like normal stuff, AKA just a bunch of random models, I rarely plan, right? But if I'm going to be doing an army, like with a lot of models, then I generally want to plan ahead at least somewhat because I'm going to be using that same scheme over and over and over and over again for potentially, I don't know, 40, 50 models, maybe more. So when I did the Robot Legions for Grimdark Future from One Page Rules, there was definitely a plan there about like very frequently what you're doing, especially if you're coming up with like an army kind of style, is it's best to try to hit like something like a 60, 30, 10. That's a percentage thing. So you've got a color that's like 60% of most of your models, and then like a 30% of the color, and then like a 10% like little kind of accent color. And if you sort of plan for that and kind of figure it out, it can help a bunch. So for me, with the Robot Legions, I wanted them to be mostly kind of a warm metallic. So I used true brass, dry brushed over black. And then they have these big cloaks, a lot of them. So that is this kind of teal color that I did with airbrush. And then the highlight kind of like accent kind of pop color was this bright orange. And it just made sense the way I did it. So that's how I did those. But when it came time to do the lizards, then the lizards, the space lizards, the splizzards, if you will, they are, I definitely just wanted their skin to be purple. So definitely we went with purple, and then we've got gold for a lot of their armor, and then they don't really have a pop color necessarily, do they? Oh, you know what they do? It's like a cream color, like a tan. But it's only on little bits here and there. They've got like things wrapped around their arms that are kind of like cloth, or they've got like the geckos. They've got like these little, almost like not quite loincloths, but sort of. So yeah, that's the kind of the 10%. But it worked out pretty well for the most part, and that's cool. With the next army that I'm doing for Grimdark Future, which is going to be a Primaris army, that I actually used. I used Photoshop, but there's all kinds of different like programs you can use. And I took a picture of one of the unpainted models, brought it into Photoshop. It was already basically looking black and white because it was just gray plastic, but I really made it black and white. And then I went through and I like kind of traced around like different sections and then started coloring them in Photoshop. And you can color them almost like speed paint, where you can make it sort of transparent. And then you can like really get a feel for how this goes and all that kind of stuff. And go, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and whatever. And then you could like change things up. I could technically show you, I think, if I can figure out where I put it. So I'm going to bring up Photoshop, which hopefully it shouldn't slow anything down, I wouldn't think, but Where did I put that? Let's see here. It would be in this thing. It would be in... Is it in terrain? No. See, here's a problem. I don't remember where I put it. That's a problem, isn't it? I think so. Well, it's not in photo. Well, I'm going to have to find out where I put it because I'm going to want to start painting that. But I was messing around in Photoshop and I can't remember where I saved it. It's not in... It's not... Is it in the... no, it's not... Oh, no. Oh, I did find it. Why is it in that folder? That's ridiculous. Anyway, okay, here we go. We're going to try to open this up. There we go. Now I need to show it to you so you can see it. Going to change this to Mac OS screen properties. We're looking for Photoshop. Boom, and okay. We'll just slide this a little bit. That's good enough. Okay, so what I've done here is, like, let me turn off everything. So I basically did... God, there's a lot of it. So I started with this, which was just basically a picture I took of a miniature that I built but hadn't painted yet or primed. And then I was holding it. You can see my fingers down here. And I shot it on a white background. And then I opened it up in Photoshop and tweaked it a little bit just so that the white really went white and everything like that. And you have this kind of... Whoops, I missed a piece. Backpack. So then what I'm doing is I'm going through and I am tracing... I'm making a new layer, right? So let's say I turn on right arm. So I use the little drawing tool, the little marquee tool here, and I basically I draw around where this arm is, and then I fill it in with red. So I do that, and then, but the red that I fill it in with is, it's a blend mode called color burn, because if I just fill it in normal, it looks like that, right? So it's just red, and that's not particularly helpful. So if I go through and I say then, okay, well, let's make it multiply. Well, multiply is pretty good because now it's like I said, like it's like speed paint where you can see the darker parts and all that kind of stuff. It's not like flowing into the, you know, crevices, but it's doing this. But what I found is then the highlights, the specular bright spots, don't look as good. So I messed around with it until I figured out that color burn, see how the difference is? I don't know if you can see that. But if I switch between those two, like that looks a lot more natural than that does, right? So color burn does that. I don't know what a lot of these blending things do. Most people who use Photoshop, if you really don't know what these blending things do, you just sort of mess with them until you find the one you like. And that's what I've done here. So to me, this looks more natural as something that was actually painted red, but you got the specular highlights on the little hand. But you don't have to be super accurate. Like you can see here where I just sort of like, you know, made the shapes and like, it's all about, I don't want to say vibes, but it is all about like when you're looking at the entire thing and being able to do this. And again, there's other software that's free and stuff like that. And there's even web-based stuff you can do basically the same thing. I'm just doing it in Photoshop because I got Photoshop. But like, I'm like, okay, well, is this the right way to do it? So there's, you know, I've done right arm. I'm going to turn on left arm. I'm going to turn on chest, right? And I'm going to turn on right leg and then left leg, and what else we got? Helmet. So I'm going like heavy red here, right? Like that's something. I got the strap, which I painted brown. A tabard. Let's make the tabard blue. That's what I did. But I could have made it red. I have that layer already. So like, you know, you can go through and do this stuff. And the idea is that you go, okay, I've done a bunch of this. Great. Well, maybe red's not the way to go. So you make a copy of the right arm over here, right? So you make a copy of this, and then you just change the color. And you can go through very easily and change the color. And then I can go, well, what if it was better if it was more of a cream color? And what if I decided to make left arm turned off, turn that into cream, right leg turned off, turn that into cream. The chest, we're going to make a copy of, turn that back into cream. Cream there. And then we're going to have the helmet, which will make cream, let's say. And then the strap stays strap colored. The tabard, maybe the tabard looks better blue, right? You know? And then we've got then the shoulders where we can go, okay, well, I always kind of want to make the shoulders sort of simpler. So they're just basically going to be like probably... The idea about doing the model this way is that I'm going to prime that thing, that cream color, right? I'm going to get that model done. He's going to be primed black, and then I'm going to do a zenithal of the cream color, whatever that color might be that I decide for my airbrush paints. And then everything else, mostly after that's going to be darker speed paints over the top of that cream color. So the shoulder pads, the tabard, the strap, all that stuff's just going to be darker, colors over the top. If I decided that my base color was going to be almost black, then you can't really use speed paints over the top to like lighten things up, because it's not how that works, because it's transparent. But because the main kind of overall look is going to be like that, then I can do that. And then there's the backpack. So like this is kind of heading into where I'm planning on going with these guys. They're going to be mostly cream colored and then have like these dark gray shoulder pads. And then if they've got a tabard, it's going to be blue. And that's kind of where I'm headed. But I'm also sort of breaking my own rules, because I'm also considering, well, what if instead I did a red helmet? Now that's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to paint a little bit, right? But it could be it wouldn't be the end of the world. Or maybe just sergeants get red helmets and everybody else is walking around with a normal helmet. I don't know. So this is kind of where, and then I'll do the eyes. I haven't figured out the eyes yet. But doing this, especially when you're like looking down the barrel of doing an entire army, is important. Doing this for every single little model that you paint in like a little squad of dudes or whatever, not so much important. Anyway, I've yammered on for probably too long here. Let's see here. What's all the different things that I missed? Tactical Rock, indeed. Morning from Calgary. Wanted to send love and support. I appreciate that. Getting the first mission of 5 parsecs. Hope Vincycon brightens your week. Absolutely, I appreciate that. Nintendo House. Gotcha. I've just never really... Like, when I was a kid, I liked Nintendo to some degree. Me and my brother had a NES. But yeah. Gunpla would work for your mech game? Generally, yeah. I would think that definitely Gundam models would generally work. Like, I'm not super into Gundam models, but I think that there's some, if you're into them, like, it's basically, again, they need to be between about roughly 6 to 8 inches high. So, yeah, there's going to be plenty of things that would work just fine. Isn't there an iPhone app that lets you take a picture of a mini, black and white it, and then digitally paint over it with a color on your phone? Not that I've seen, no. That would be super cool if you could, though. But I've not seen anything like that. Because if you turned it black and white, that's easy. But then going through and like drawing all the shoulder pad and that part of the arm you can see and all that kind of stuff, that's a pain. There is an app that has a bunch of models already put into it where they've already gone through and segmented all the parts, and then you just pick colors. But the problem is that those models are not like... I find it works best if I can see the model I want to do it on. Like, they're basically like, oh, we've got a bunch of different models from not GW, but this is a guy in power armor. Well, okay, but there's, I don't know. I looked at that. I forget what it's called. ImpCat, maybe? I think it might be ImpCat. And it just didn't quite do it for me. But if there was somebody who could make a thing where you just shot a picture and then black and whited it, and it was very simple, it used machine learning to figure out, well, this is a shoulder pad, and this is a gun, and this is a rifle strap or whatever, that'd be cool. But I've not heard that one. Iterative design process based on one's experience and judgment and ideas of the finished composition with some trial and error en route is kind of also, but sort of not vibes. I mean, sure, yeah, you're not wrong. Need to do this exactly with Big Skelly Boy? Sure. ImpCat uses SVGs to simulate painting miniatures. Interesting. Surely you could use AI detection of existing colors and body shapes to block out areas. I mean, Adobe is a big, huge, expensive company, and they can't quite figure it out yet. Like, there's so many things, like when you bring in a picture and you're like, oh, I'll just knock out the background with this, multi-billion-dollar company's like flagship piece of software, and then you go, knock out the background, please, and then it's like, oh, where'd my arms go? That kind of thing. That happens a lot. It's a real pain in the butt. Like, when you've got when you get the thumbnail of my Friday video and I'm down in the corner usually or whatever, I always take a screenshot from the video of me so that I don't shoot that picture separately. That is always a face that I made in the video, as opposed to most YouTube videos where the person who's in the video is having an aneurysm, and then you take a picture of that separately and then you put that in. No, I actually take a screenshot from the video and I put it in there. But instead of telling Photoshop, yeah, knock the background out, why not? That might work, which it doesn't most times. I just go through and I just trace around real quickly, and then it's fine. The knockout background, once in a great while, it works spectacularly, and frequently it doesn't work worth a crap. So now, that being said, in the editing software that I use, when I want to keyframe, or not keyframe, what is it called? Rotoscope or whatever, so that like in this situation, the camera is shooting me and also the background, but the camera's on a tripod type thing. If I was doing this and I decided to edit it in the editing software that I use, Final Cut Pro, it's very good, especially when the camera's not moving. If it's locked down, it's very good at figuring out where I am and where the background is. And which is why, like, sometimes in the videos you see stuff go behind me, right? But, and that kind of thing. That's an editing trick, because Final Cut Pro is much better at figuring out what's background and what's not than Photoshop is, as it turns out. I don't think I can do those cool tricks with this camera. I think it has to be the other camera. There's a thing you can do in Apple when you're using the webcam, where it can still figure out where the background is in comparison to you, and then you can have like balloons fall, and some will fall in front of you, but other ones will look like they're falling behind you, or there'll be like fireworks behind you and stuff like that, because it can figure out what's background and what's not. So let's see here for you. Thought you were taking time away. I mean, good to see you, and hope everything is proceeding to plan. I wanted to make sure to, like, I didn't do this show last week, and I wanted to make sure to do it this week. And so it's been that kind of thing. Speaking of Adobe AI, their cloud-based background detection is really good now. Also, you can now use Firefly to generate short video loops on transparent backgrounds. Oh, that's kind of cool. I'll have to check that out. I haven't used Firefly at all. So the cloud-based background detection is really good. Like I said, I haven't had any good luck with the stuff in Photoshop much, but like I said, in the editing software, it works real nice. So let's see here. All right, I should close Photoshop. Do I want to save? No, thank you. I'm fine. All right. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. So yeah, my plan is for VincyCon is I'm bringing, like I said, my laptop, and I'm bringing an external screen, and I am going to, my plan is to try to do some terrain modeling, not sculpting, in partially one thing I should do if I'm smart is I want to build curbs, right? So I have this 3 foot by 3 foot cyberpunk table idea, and I've already worked on buildings for it and stuff like that, but I need to actually work on the base. So what I need is a 3 foot by 3 foot piece of like MDF, and that's going to be the road surface. And then I want to, and I've already got the road designed in Illustrator and stuff like that. So I know where the roads are going to go, but my thought process initially was like, okay, well, I'll buy MDF that's a little bit thinner, and well, a lot thinner, and then I will cut those shapes out with like a jigsaw and try to get them all to fit together to make these roads and all that kind of stuff. And then I was like, that sounds like a giant pain in the butt. What if instead I 3D printed them? Because I've 3D printed bases for things now, like some terrain that I've done, rather than just cutting a piece of MDF, I'll just 3D print the base as well. And it just, you can do cool things with it and neat stuff like that. And then just you glue your piece of terrain to this 3D printed piece of, base, and then boom, there you go. So I'm thinking about doing that with this stuff, and taking cues a lot from the cyberpunk video game. Like when you're just walking around in the video game, like the curbs are all sci-fi, and there's like weird stuff in the, and that stuff you could model pretty simply, I think, with 3D printing. So my thought process is doing that. And maybe I do some of that sculpting. Now, the thing is, again, I've only got about an 8-inch, you can go to about 8 to 9 inch square that you can print to, because the print plate's only so big on the thing, right? So then I need to take this design and kind of cut it up into parts, and then, you know, but I'm going to figure that out, I think, too. So I've disowned Adobe for years since they went to subscription. Affinity is the way forward. Affinity's cool, but unfortunately it got bought by Canva. So I don't know. Something is about to go weird with Affinity, I think, because they just recently made it so you can't buy Affinity anymore right now. And they said there's some new stuff coming soon, some new announcement or whatever. And I just saw a video about this, and I don't know what the new announcement is, but I'll have to pay closer attention. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Adobe stuff either. But like Photoshop and Illustrator, they work really nicely. I know how they work. I should go some other direction, but I haven't yet. And then the other one, InDesign, is what we've been using for making the games. So there's that. Affinity's got a thing called Publisher, which you could use as well, but need to switch on to cloud-based detection and preferences as the local one is still garbage. Yeah, that's a bummer. It's amazing that my phone can do it so much easier than Photoshop can. You know what I mean? Like if I got a picture of a kitty, let's say, let's find, I know I just recently took a nice picture of George. See, nice picture of George, right? Living his best life. If I press down on George, watch this. See, it immediately separated him from the background, and it'll now like draw like, is it drawing the line? Yeah, it's drawing like a white line around him to show you where like what's cat and what's not cat, and it figured out the shadows and the whole deal, and it's amazing. And how is it my phone can do this and Photoshop can't? I don't know. I don't understand it. Your phone has a tensor core built in for that very purpose. Well, I mean, they should put some of those in my computer. Oh wait, there are. I'm pretty sure that there are. They just don't have access to them evidently in Photoshop or something. I don't know. Nintendo Wii version of Call of Duty Black Ops, the original, when paired with the Zapper controller handle, was a whole lot of fun. Huh? I never knew about that. I was amazed by that when my friend handed me her phone. It's a good, quick editing. Yeah, it's very helpful, actually. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for everything. It's 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods. And so I will be at Vince's next weekend. So there won't be any every other Sunday show next weekend, because there wouldn't be, but I'll also be at Vince's. So there's that too. I've done every other Sunday show from Vince's before. It's okay. It's easier to do it from home. But anyway, yeah, so I'll see you folks soon. I will have another video that goes up on Friday. I'm going to have to obviously have all set up before I leave, but that won't be too big of a deal. And yeah, I want to say thanks again for everybody coming by. I appreciate the messages. I appreciate the condolences and all that kind of stuff. The video that went up on Friday has got like 1,000 comments because it's a great community, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much. That's pretty much about it. I appreciate it. Get some hobby done today if you can. And if you can't, don't beat yourself up about it. It's okay. Otherwise, stay safe. And thanks for watching.